warm welcome to all my students. Today we will study about globalization of business. In this chapter we will learn about meaning of globalization, the factors that are included in globalization, main characteristic of globalization, advantages of globalization and disadvantage of globalization. These are the topic will be discussed in today's session. Globalization is not a new phenomenon to business field. The period between 1870 and 1913 played a growing trend towards globalization. But after 1980, globalization achieved a great progress in the economic reforms of developing countries. Of late, the achievements in technology, communication and internet communication system have made a large business unit as global units. That means that activities of these large business units are not confined only to that place where they are established but spread all over the world. Globalization is not a new concept to the business field. The period between 1870 and 1913 played a growing trend towards globalization. But after 1980, globalization had achieved a great progress in economic reform in developing country. They also helped in the development in the field of technology, communication and internet communication system. Today, the business units are not confined only to that place where they are established, but they are spread all over the world. As a result of this, the close relation and interdependence among the countries of the world has increased and business and market have become worldwide unit. Due to globalization, the close relationship, interdependence among the country have increased. Not only that, business and the market have spread all over the world. First, let me learn the meaning of globalization. The International Monetary Fund has defined globalization as the growing economic interdependence of countries worldwide through increasing volume and variety of cross-border transactions in goods and services, and of international capital flow, and also through the more rapid and widespread diffusion of technology. The globalization definition was given by international organization, that is International Monetary Fund has defined it, the globalization. The growing economic interdependence of countries worldwide through increasing volume and variety of cross-border transactions in goods and services, and of international capital flow, and also through the more rapid and widespread diffusion of technology. To understand what has been said in the definition, next slide will help you out. From this definition, it is clear that globalization is increasing cross-border movement of goods and service, that is movement of goods and service from one country to another. Globalization is increasing cross-border movement of goods and service. That is, movement of a goods and service from one country to another. International flow of capital, technology and information. Through globalization, flow of capital takes place as well as technology and information are moving from one place to another. Formation of one worldwide market by obtaining raw materials and other resources from cheap market. Production of goods in any region of the world at a cheaper cost. Through globalization, worldwide market by obtaining raw material, other resources from cheap market, production of goods in any region of the world at a cheaper cost. Even the cost of the production has decreased. That is, the goods cost will be cheaper due to globalization. Factors which include in globalization. Globalization refers to the worldwide phenomenon of technical, economic, political and cultural exchanges brought about by modern communication, transportation and legal infrastructure, as well as the political choice to consciously open cross-border link in international trade and finance. Globalization refers to worldwide phenomenon of technical, economic, political and cultural exchanges brought about by modern communication, transportation and legal infrastructure, as well as political choice to consciously open cross-border link in the international trade and finance. Globalization encourages international capital and trade, overcoming the political barriers among the countries. Globalization creates free trade zone by removing the import and export duties. Through containers service in shipping, globalization reduces the transportation expense. Globalization helps to reduce the restriction on capital investment or fully removes the barriers on capital flow. The factors of globalization. It leads to international capital and trade and also free trade zone. It also helps in reducing transport expenses and also helps in removing the barriers on capital flow. First, remember, it encourages international capital and trade. Next, a free trade zone without paying any import and export duties. Next, it reduces the transport expense on shipping. It also helps to remove the barriers on capital flow. Globalization creates subsidies to the Worldwide Trade Organization. Globalization creates harmonization of intellect property law across the majority of states which have more restrictions. Example, some patent goods of China are found in some prominent business house of America. Through globalization, it has created subsidies to the Worldwide Trade Organization, that is reducing the price of the goods. And not only that, it has created harmonization, that is peace among the countries. Now they have given you an example to understand this point better. A patent on a goods is taken by China, and those goods are even found in America. A permanent house they are found in America. Main characteristics of globalization: increases international trade at a faster rate for the growth of world economy, increases the international flow of capital including foreign investment. Globalization creates international agreements leading to organizations like the WTO. WTO means World Trade Organization, and OPEC, oil producing and exporting countries. Developing of global financial system. Now we started learning about the characteristic of globalization. The first point in it, it increases international trade at a faster rate all over the world. It also increases the international flow of capital including investment, foreign investment. Remember, we are talking about the foreign investment. Not only capital flow but also encourages foreign investment. The globalization creates international agreements leading to organizations like WTO and OPEC. So we have entered through globalization. We are also able to enter into agreement with organizations like WTO and OPEC. And there is also development in financial system. So first one is increasing international trade. Next one, flow of capital, international agreements with organizations like WTO and OPEC, and also has developed a global financial system. Increases the role of international organizations such as WTO, WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, IMF, International Monetary Fund, etc. that deals with international transactions. Increases economic practice like outsourcing by multinational companies, creates international cultural exchange, spreading of multiculturalization and better individual access to culture diversity. So here you can see that it is increasing the role of international organization, and these are the international organizations being mentioned, that is WTO, WIPO and IMF, and increases economic practice like outsourcing by multinational companies, international culture exchanges, and also spreading cultural diversity. Creates international travel and tourism. Greater immigration including illegal immigration. Spread of local foods such as pizza and Indian food to other countries. Development of global telecommunication infrastructure and greater trans-border data flow. Use of technologies such as exchange of data technology, internet communication satellites and cell phone improves. It creates travel and tourism, a greater immigration including illegal immigrations, spread of local food such as pizza and Indian food to other countries, and development, telecommunication infrastructure and greater transfer border data flow. and uses of technology such as exchange of data technology, internet communication satellite and cell phones. Next, we will learn about the advantages of globalization. That is, positive impact of globalization, I do call it as merit. Globalization promotes economic growth and generates a wider range of products and services. Globalization helps to increase the standard of living of the people. Globalization has made the availability of similar type of product all over the world. Globalization increases the GDP of a country. The advantage of globalization, first advantage is promotes economic growth and also generates a wide range of product and service. Products and services. So it is generating products and services as well as economic growth. We can also see there is an increase in standard of living of people. At the same time, there is an availability of similar type of product all over the world. And globalization has also increases the GDP of the country, that is gross domestic product of a country. First one is economic growth, second one standard of living of people, availability of similar type of product all over the world increases the GDP of a country. Globalization has helped in increasing the income of the people by buying the products from other countries. Customers are offered a much wider choice of goods and services. Globalization creates competition for local firms and thus keeps the cost down. Due to the globalization, there is increasing the income of the people by buying product from other countries. Customers are offered much wider choice of goods and services. And it also creates competition for local firms, that is local companies, and keeps the cost down. Due to the competition, the cost of the product will be lesser. Globalization promotes specialization. The countries can beginning to specialist in those products that are best at making. Economic interdependence among different countries can build improved political and social links. The globalization promotes specialization. A country which is specialized in one particular product can concentrate and develop better. Interdependence among different countries to build their political and social links. Disadvantages of globalization. Negative impact of globalization. That means demerit of globalization. Though it is true that globalization has brought new dimensions to this world and people are mingling with each other more freely and professionally, there are certain challenges one need to face in accepting the new U-turns. Though globalization has helped in the development of economic of developing country, but still there is also disadvantage in globalization. The negative impact of globalization. That negative impact will be studied in the next slide. Some of the negative impacts of globalization are as follows. In order to cut down the cost, many firms in developed nations have outsourced their manufacturing and white collar jobs to third world countries where the cost of labor is low. Globalization has also led to increase in activity such as child labor and slavery. The developing countries have cut down the cost of many products by outsourcing the product to third world country. That means the developed nations who can produce the goods in their country itself, they had given those products to be produced by the third world country. Third world country means developing and underdeveloped countries. They were given those products for these countries to develop. Main reason is to reduce the cost of labor. In underdeveloped country and developing country, the cost of labor is low compared to developed nation. Globalization has also increased the activities such as child labor and slavery. Globalization has resulted in a fiercely competing global market with the embarrassment of unethical practices in business dealings. It is also observed that globalization helped terrorists and criminals. Globalization has expanded the growth and development of cities, which has been reduced to garbage dumps, where all the industrial waste is accumulated and pollution levels are sky high. Due to the globalization, unethical practice in business dealing have taken place. Unethical practice means illegal practice have taken place in business dealing due to globalization. Not only that, it has led to terrorist activity as well as criminal activities. And globalization has expanded the growth and the development of cities, which has reduced to garbage dumps, where the industrial waste is accumulated and pollution levels have increased. Due to the globalization, unethical practice had gained its importance. Terrorist and criminal activities have observed. At the same time, garbage dumps and pollution levels have increased. Fast food chains like McDonalds, KFC are spreading fast in developing worlds. People have started consuming more junk foods. This results in the degradation of health and spread of diseases. The traditional family attached food habits are being slowly disappearing. Another comment leveled is that rich are getting richer and the poor are struggling for a square meal. Fast food chains like McDonald's, KFC are gaining importance in developing world, and people started consuming or giving more importance to junk food. Due to this, the health is affected as well as it leads in spreading diseases. At the same time, the traditional family attached food habits are being decreasing or disappearing. The rich are getting richer and poor are struggling for a square meal. Even today, the rich people are getting richer and the poor are struggling for a meal a day. Some of the deadly viral diseases such as AIDS and cancer, dengue fever, spread all over the world. Globalization led to environmental degradation. The amount of raw materials needed to run industries and factories is taking a heavy toll on natural reserves of planet Earth, and pollution has severely impacted the quality of air that need so much for our survival. Due to the globalization, deadly viral disease have spread all over the world like AIDS, cancer, dengue fever, etc. Globalization has led to environmental degradation. Due to the globalization, the raw materials are used by the industries are increasing day by day. Due to that, the natural reserve of planet Earth and the pollution have severely impacted the quality of air that we need so much for our survival. Even the natural resources have been affected. The pollution level has increased now. The other challenges of globalization are cheap imports of goods from developing nations could lead to unemployment in developed countries where the cost of production is high. Further, it leads to increased competition for infant industry and small scale industry, and by dumping of goods by certain countries at below low cost price may harm industries in other countries. The other challenges of globalization are cheap imports of goods from developing nations could lead to unemployment in developed countries, leading to unemployment problem in developed countries. It also increases the competition for infant industry as well as small scale industry. By dumping goods by certain countries at below cost price may harm the industries in other countries. Today's assignment: what is globalization? Globalization definition was given by IMF. So, you will write a definition which was given by IMF. International Monetary Fund has defined it, globalization, as the growing economic interdependence of countries worldwide through increasing volume and variety of cross-border transaction in goods and services, and of international capital flow, and also through the more rapid and widespread diffusion of technology. This definition has to be written for this question. A definition which was given by IMF. The next question is regarding the what are the advantages of globalization? Now we will start with the advantage of globalization with all the points I have mentioned has to be written. First point, globalization promotes economic growth and generates a wide range of product and service. Next, you will write about standard of living of the people. Next, the availability of similar type of product all over the world. Globalization increases the GDP of a country. Globalization has helped in increasing the income of the people by buying the products from other countries. Customers are offered much wider choice of goods and services. Globalization creates competition for local firms and thus keeps the costs down. Globalization promotes specialization. Countries can begin to specialize in those products that are best at making. Economic interdependence among different countries can build improved political and social links. So these are the points have to be written for the second question regarding advantage of globalization. The third question, explain the negative aspect of globalization with the example. In this, you will write the disadvantage of globalization, that is negative impact of globalization. You can write this introduction part. After that, start with the points regarding disadvantage or the negative impact of globalization. The first one regarding, in order to cut down the cost, many firms in developed nations have outsourced their manufacturing and white-collar jobs to third world countries where the cost of labor is low. Globalization also led to an increase in activities such as child labor and slavery. You will write about unethical practices in the business dealings. Mention about the terrorists and criminals. Then the last one regarding globalization, expand the growth and the development of cities which has been reduced to garbage dumps where all the industrial waste is accumulated and pollution level are sky high. Regarding the McDonalds and KFC had gained importance, junk food are gaining importance due to that health deterioration and spread of disease has to be mentioned, and also the traditional families attached food habits are being slowly disappearing. And next you will write about the rich are getting richer and the poor are struggling for a square meal. And write about these viral diseases like AIDS, cancer, dengue fever spread all over the world, and globalization has led to environmental degradation. And the last point regarding the amount of raw materials needed to run industries and factories is taking heavy toll on natural reserves of planet Earth, and pollution has severely impacted the quality of air that we need so much for our survival. So these are the points have to be written regarding the negative impact of globalization. So the last question is, make a list of characteristics of globalization. In that you will write all the characteristics which are there regarding the globalizations. That is, increase international trade, flow of capital, international agreements leading to organization like WTO, development of global financial system, increase the role of international organizations, mention all those international organizations which has been mentioned here, increase economic practices like outsourcing by multinational corporations, creates international cultural exchange, spreading of multiculturalization and better individual access to cultural diversity, creates international travel and tourism, regarding the local food you have to mention, and development of global telecommunication infrastructure, and the last one you will write about use of technologies. These points have to be written regarding the characteristic of globalization. So these 4 questions have to be written in the homework book, children. Thank you, children. In the next class, I will start the new lesson. Thank you.